Hi there, this is Teri from stampinmagic.com. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I created this little box. I'm going to go through the whole process with you, showing you how I calculate the dimensions and all the measurements I need to create it. So let's get started. I want to create a little box to hold this bath and shower gel. It's going to be a little gift for my next party hostess. This is a style of box that I've used many times in the past. Here's one I've created to hold some of our note cards and envelopes. The only difference with this one is that the measurement used for the front and the back is different to the measurement used for the sides. For something with a circular or a square bottom, all your measurements will be the same, so it's much simpler to create. I usually like to draw out my design, first of all, to help me calculate the measurements that I'll need. I'm going to start with a rectangle, and then I know there's a lip to the box, and then the lid of the box, and I know there's a base to the box. On the right hand side, I'll usually draw a 1/2 inch strip, which is my closure for the box when we put it together. And then this particular one has 4 even sides. The second panel on the left hand side is going to be the front of my box. So I know the lid sections on either side of that are going to form those little tabs at the top of the box. So I'm just marking on my plan where these will be trimmed. And then all these shaded areas are the areas I'm going to cut away. They're not needed. So this will be the back of my box. And those little corner tabs are also not required. On the back of the box, I'm going to punch out a 1/2 circle. And this will help with the opening and closing of the box. And then also on that 1/2 inch strip on the right hand side, I will slant cut these so you won't get any of the edges showing on the top or the bottom of the box. Now again, because I'm using an object which has a circular bottom, all the sides will be the same size. So I'm just measuring the diameter of the circle, and I'm going to add a little bit. The actual measurement was 1 5/8, but I'm allowing 1/8 of an inch just so the bottle won't be too tight in the box when it's finished. So my measurement's 1 3/4 inches for the base, the width of each side, the lid as well. Now the top lip of the box I usually make about a 1/2 inch. Unless I'm doing a huge box, I try and keep it to about a 1/2 inch. Now the height of the box is the next measurement, and the actual height of this bottle is 4 5/8 of an inch. So again, I'm allowing an extra 1/8 of an inch, and I'm making that 4 3/4 of an inch. The next thing I need to do is calculate the size of the cardstock that I need to cut to create this box. And to do this, all you need to do is add up all the measurements on each side. So for this side, the measurement comes to 8 3/4 inches. And then for the other side, if we add those measurements together, they'll come to 7 1/2 inches. So I know my cardstock needs to measure 8 3/4 inches by 7 1/2 inches, which is great because I can see clearly now that I can get this box out of an A4 sheet or an 8 1/2 by 11 inch sheet of card. The next thing I need to do is work out my score lines for this box. So I'm going to start with the measurements down the side, which is my longest edge. Okay, so my first measurement will be 1 3/4. That's where my first score line will be. and then I need to add 4 3/4 to that 1 3/4, which will give me 6.5, and then 1 3/4 again, which gives me my last score line of 8 1/4, and this is all in inches. And then for my shorter line, which is the one that actually goes across the bottom, I'll start with 1 3/4 again, and then add the next 1 3/4 to it, which gives us 3.5, and then my third score line will be another 1 3/4 of an inch on, which is 5 1/4, and finally 7 inches. I'm going to start with my longest side first, so that's the 8 3/4 inch side. And I'm going to score my cardstock at 1 3/4, 6.5, and 8 1/4. Then I'm going to quarter turn my cardstock, so the 7.5 inch side is at the top, and I'm going to score at 1 3/4, 3.5, 5 1/4, and 7 inches. The next thing I need to do is to cut away all the shaded areas that I've marked on my plan. The cardstock I'm using, by the way, is Blueberry Bushel. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. So I'm going to start by cutting away those small corner sections above and below that 1/2 inch side tab. And I've slant cutted these. Next, I can trim away some of these top pieces. So this will be my back section, and that whole piece can come away. And then I'm just going to separate my front section from the 2 side pieces. And I'm cutting away the score line. This just helps your box fold in a little bit neater. And then I'm not measuring these, I'm just going to cut them approximately to half the size that they were, and these are those side tab pieces. Next, for the base of the box, I just want to separate the tabs, and again I'm going to cut away the score line between each of them. So you should be able to see now that my piece of card looks pretty much as it did on my plan. I still have a couple of things left to do before we start decorating this box. The first is to punch that half circle at the top of the back of the box. So I'm using a 1/2 inch circle punch, and again I'm just doing this by eye, I'm not measuring the center, and I'm just punching that half circle. And then for the closure lip on the front of the box, I want to round the edges so it's just a little bit easier to insert into the box itself to close it. And to do this, I'm using my detailed trio punch. There is a corner rounder on there. I'm just folding the edges and the sides of my box to move them out the way so I can get into those corners, and then I'm just punching them. Next, I'm going to calculate the sizes I need to cut my pattern paper to. So I'm just measuring the width with a ruler, and I'm using centimetres here. I tend to do my scoring in inches, but use centimetres and metric measurements for most other things. So the width of my panel was 4.5 centimetres. I want to have a border all the way round, so I've logged my measurement as 4 centimetres. Now the height of the panels is 12 centimetres, so I'm deducting 0.5 centimetre and I'm noting it down as 11.5 centimetres. And in inches, this calculates to 4.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Now for the top of the lid, I'm just checking the measurement, and again it's 4.5 centimetres, so I'm marking that down as 4 centimetres square, which is 1.5 inches. So I need to cut 4 panels and 1 piece for the lid. I've cut my pieces of designer series paper that I need, and the paper I'm using is from the 6" by 6" garden impressions stack. And I'm going to glue these on while my box is flat. You don't have to, you can put your box together and then glue them on if you want to. I prefer to do it when it's flat if I can. So fold your box on all the score lines and burnish with a bone folder. Then you can add your glue to the back of each piece and position it onto the box. I like to use Tombow multi-purpose adhesive because it gives you that few seconds wiggle room to adjust the positioning. Now because the paper on my last panel, on the back panel, went over that punched out half circle, I'm just going to take my 1/2 inch circle punch again and just remove that piece of designer series paper that's showing there. Now we can add glue to that 1/2 inch tab on the right hand side of the box, and then fold the other end in to stick it down to create our box shape. For the base of the box, you want to fold in the back tab first. This is the side with the half circle cut out, then the 2 side tabs, and finally the front tab. So you want to apply your glue to the side tabs and the front tab only. Then fold your side tabs in and then your front tab. This leaves a lovely clean edge on the front of your box. Use your bone folder to make sure everything is stuck down firmly, and then we can add our bottle. I'm keeping the decoration on this box really simple, and I'm just using a sentiment from the Very Vintage stamp set, and I'm going to stamp this with Melon Mambo ink, just on a piece of our normal weight Whisper White cardstock. Then I'm going to punch this out using my 1 inch circle punch. Then for layering, I have some scrap Melon Mambo cardstock, and I'm going to use my 1 1/8 inch scallop circle punch and punch that out, and then glue these 2 pieces together. I have some of the Blueberry Bushel 1/8 inch grosgrain ribbon, and I'm going to try and put this behind the sentiment panel. I'm just trying to determine here how much I need. And I cut off about 8 inches in the end, which is about 20 centimetres. To secure this onto the back of the sentiment panel, I'm just going to use a little bit of Teri tape. I anchored one of the ends onto the Teri tape and then created a loop with the other end, bringing it across the back of the panel to create another loop, and then bringing it back again for the other end, and I'll trim that second end to size. To secure it onto the box, I'm just using a couple of the stamping dimensionals. And then just to finish off, I'm going to add a couple of our basic rhinestones. And there you have it, that's this little box complete. This style of box makes for a very sturdy box. It's easy to open and easy to close. And once you've made one or two of them, you'll find it very quick and simple to do. Using the method I've shown you, you can create boxes for all sorts of things. Although this one was created to hold the bath and shower gel, it could actually hold anything, including sweet treats. I decided to make another little box following the same method as before. Now this one is much smaller than my first one and does actually contain a couple of chocolate treats. So I've got 2 Ferrero Rocher chocolates inside. And as I said, I created the box in exactly the same way. So I measured the diameter of the chocolate, which is round, and I also measured the height of the chocolate. The shaded areas are exactly the same as before and shows me where I need to remove cardstock. I was able to calculate the scoring and also the sizes of the designer series paper that I needed to decorate it. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.